Hello players, sometimes big things are better smaller, or that's what I've been told anyway. If you've watched me before, you know that I have a love for tiny keyboards, and I've recommended a couple in the past. This time, iPazzport have sent me over 3 of their tiny little remote control keyboards, and we'll take a look at those. And if you haven't watched me before, then lucky you. There's a first time for everything. So disclosure time, they sent these to me for free for the purposes of this review. No money changed hands, but I did get these for free to give my honest opinions, because that's how opinions work. So we'll start with this one. This is the A6 and is fairly familiar to a few of the others that you may have seen around before, particularly on Amazon or the actual previous one that I recommended as well. So I'll be going over the build quality and the different features, and you know how reviews work. So the A6 comes with a little tiny USB-C cable, so it is Type-C charging on the top, and I'll get more into that in a minute. What sets this one apart from some of the other ones that share the similar kind of form factor is that it can do Bluetooth, infrared, and RF. RF not to control RF things, but with the little RF dongle that it comes with. And if you don't want to use this little dongle in the back there, then you can just use Bluetooth as you would use Bluetooth, which is pretty normal. Now, I found the range on Bluetooth slightly better than the RF, but of course your mileage may vary depending on how many other Bluetooth and RF devices you have knocking about, which obviously can cause interference with other Bluetooth and RF. The infrared on here is a learn function, so you can use any kind of other infrared remote to learn commands from, and you can program these arrow and media buttons and these 4 color buttons up here to do whatever you want from your original remote. Now, it's not going to completely replace a universal remote control, but it is going to be handy in a pinch. And when you want to do the majority of things, perhaps change channels, skip songs, volume, that kind of stuff, you can have that all in one place, which is handy. So what's the point of these teeny tiny keyboards? Well, if you're right on the top end and have a home theater PC, you may not want to, drag the full size keyboard out just to type in a password or log into something. And it's the same with something like the Fire TV, the Apple TV, the Nvidia Shield. The on-screen keyboard is, well, they're all rubbish. They're all trash. So being able to type something in quickly is good. So that's why I like these little tiny keyboards. So the A6 is a full QWERTY keyboard. You've got function keys F1 through 11, 12 even, and you've got some other functions, home, page up, and the usual kind of stuff by holding the function key. You've also got a touchpad up here, which is very responsive, fine, had no problems with that, and the function to change the sensitivity, I set it on the medium one. The lowest one is way too slow, and the top end one is a bit too sensitive for me. I mean, I called it a name and it started crying. That's how sensitive it is. But it also has RGB, which you will never use because it is so ridiculous. Let's turn that on. So you've got the usual unicorn vomit there, and you've also got a wave, a color wave, and the next one is a different color wave, and the next one is a slightly less unicorn vomit wave. We'll do a real thing and read the instructions. I don't know if you can set that backlight key to do like a proper always on backlight. Yeah, you can't do that, which I think is a bit of a shame. But the keys are nice and clicky. They have a nice responsive click to them. I haven't noticed any missed keys when I've been typing. I mean, you can realistically only get about 30 to 40 words per minute if you're really going for it. So you type like this with your 2 thumbs is the easiest way to type on a keyboard like this. And yeah, as I said, you won't be typing Shakespeare or your thesis on this, but you can type in a username and password relatively quickly. A lot quicker than the on-screen keyboard, definitely. Anyway, so in order to switch between the modes, we've got TV, which will allow you to switch these top buttons to the RF commands that you have learnt. The keyboard keys and everything else still functions as a normal keyboard as if it was on RF or Bluetooth. So you can switch over to the RF and that will switch over to the dongle, and then you can use Bluetooth to pair it with something like a phone or a Fire TV. And what's also very nice on this one, especially for a home theater PC, is you've got these 2 shoulder buttons on the top there, which are for left click and right click, which is a lot easier than kind of double tapping the touchpad. So the build quality on this one is all right. It's going to survive a few drops. Plastic isn't the highest quality plastic. It does have that cheapish plasticky feel to it, but you know, it's not a $200 mechanical keyboard. It does what it does. On my one, I did notice that the battery door was slightly raised. That can be fixed just by bending that back into shape. But what there is on here is a user replaceable battery, which is nice. I like it when this happens, but it doesn't happen on all of them. Out of all three of them, I think this is the only one with the user replaceable battery, but it's nice that it has it regardless. This one has a microphone button, it's right there, and the little microphone hole is right there for you to speak your words into. Now, it's not going to, you're not going to be able to use it for dictation or recording your voice or anything like that. The voice function is for kind of voice search on Android devices. It doesn't work with Windows, and it does work with the majority of Android devices, but not every single one of them. So don't buy it specifically for that feature alone. It'll be the simplest one to use because it's got kind of standard Bluetooth keyboard format. But let's go over to the AirFly mouse, which is called the X9B. Okay, so this one has a much higher build quality than the other one. There's again USB-C on the bottom for charging, and this is a more standard universal remote control kind of format. So again, you can program infrared controls with the front button there. And it did tell me I can only learn one infrared remote command, but I've managed to program everything and it's been fine. So yeah, you can do more than one thing. That's fine. This again has the same voice function that the other one does, and on the front there you've got a back button, home button, volume up and down, page up and down, menu button, the Air Mouse button, which I'll get to in a second, and the power button. On the reverse side is again a full QWERTY keyboard. On this one you don't get any function keys, so F1 through 11 or F1 through 12, they're not available on here, but you do have functions for the numbers. This is a lot more streamlined than the other one, so instead of those function keys F1 through 11 by holding the function button, you don't have that on this one, but you do have numbers and symbols behind the function key. The X9B has the same connectivity as the A6, so that's Bluetooth, infrared with learning, and RF with the little RF dongle. There is one thing that kind of bugged me with this remote, and it's not any of its functions, its functionality works really well. It's that I couldn't work out how to turn it off. So you can charge it, you can power it up, but I'm sure there is a way. The instructions are not the clearest instructions, and I've been told that these are being rewritten to be more clear. So your one should come with clearer instructions, but holding the power button, there's no way to actually turn the remote off. It just seems to be always on. Okay, so let's talk about this as an Air Mouse. I really like this. So you hit the Air Mouse button and then it changes into an Air Mouse. Wherever you move and point with its gyro or whatever it's got in there to be an Air Mouse, it must be a gyro. You move the remote with your hand because you probably don't have telekinesis. If you did, why would you need a remote? That's silly. So you move your remote with your hand, and then the big button in the center here acts as a left click. So you move and click. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. If you've ever picked up a Wiimote, then it's kind of the same deal. What I will say is that it does kind of drift if you go too far to the edges of the screen. So if you move it this way, the remote will keep moving, but your cursor won't. And then when you start to bring it back, then your cursor will start to move. So just keep it within the confines of the screen and you'll be absolutely fine. Again, keyboard keys are nice and clicky, but if you have tiny little girly Donald Trump hands, you may just struggle trying to get into the center. I've got tiny little girly hands and I can reach just fine. So that's that. Last is the 30BR. Now there's a few different variations of this particular remote because there is a few different variations of the size of the Amazon Fire TV remotes. Did you know that? I didn't know that. So they make this one for all different sizes of the Fire TV remote. So if you are going to get this one, make sure that you get the right size. And there is also a size for the Apple TV as well. So this one is kind of a, I'll come back to this because this is quite interesting. So on its own, it's a mini standard keyboard that doesn't have any of the kind of fancy features that this one has. It only has Bluetooth and unfortunately it has a micro B charging port, but okay, fine. And it doesn't have any function keys. It only has numbers and symbols behind the FN key. The keyboard is slightly mushier than the other two, but absolutely fine to type on. Build quality is, I'd put it in the middle, but this one is the highest build quality of the metal. Then this one, than this one. This has a less cheap plasticky feel than the A6. Curiously, it looks like there's an infrared port on the top, but there's no mention of infrared in the instructions or on the box. So, I don't know. So the key layout on this one is kind of a grid, not your standard offset rows. This one has standard offset rows. The top row is probably offset just over to the left, slightly more than it probably is standard. And this one is your kind of standard layout offset keys. But this one is a grid, so that might slow down your typing a little bit, or you might get used to it. What this one has over the other two is this little silicone case. So you pop the universal remote control in there like that. On the other side is space for your Fire TV remote or your Apple TV remote to sit in there, depending on which model you get. Now, unfortunately, I have the wrong size Fire TV remote because I didn't know they come in different sizes. So I've got the teeny tiny one because I'm a teeny tiny person. But the idea is that it would sit in here like this. And if you have the right size, then it holds it in there properly. And then you've got both the Fire TV remote and the keyboard flips on the other side. So then you can search on this side and then you can flip it over and you've always got a keyboard ready to go. That's, that's quite handy. So if you do get this one, make sure you get the right size for your Fire TV remote or your Apple TV. So how much do all of these cost? Well, the A6 is currently $28 on Amazon with $8 off, so that brings it to $20. I don't know how long that promotion runs for, but while I was making this video, that's what was on offer. The Fire TV Grip remote one, which is the 30BR, as I check my notes there for you, it's $29, but there is 30% off on Amazon for that one. And the X9B mouse is $39, and there's also 30% off on that one. Which one would I recommend? Well, I'm pretty happy with all of them, to be honest. They all do exactly what they say they would do. This one has the highest build quality, followed by this one, and then this one last, just because of that plasticky feel. But they all do exactly what they say. This one is more of your traditional kind of remote layout with a nice thin keyboard on the back. This one, if you only have a Fire TV and you just want a keyboard around, then this one's a good way to go as well. This obviously can be used without the silicone strap and can just be used as a normal Bluetooth keyboard well, as you would use a normal Bluetooth keyboard. So there's that one. The A6 is definitely more well suited to home theater PC. You can definitely type a lot faster on here than you can on the other two. And you've got the left and right click shoulder buttons up there, which will definitely come in handy for kind of PC use. Got the more traditional kind of remote setups here. This one gives you all the benefits of your original remote plus a keyboard, and this one is kind of a slimmed down version of the original remote plus a keyboard. So there's that. But this is going to do 95% of what the original remote did anyway. Actually, what is it missing from the original Fire TV remote? Yeah, so you don't get your Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, or Amazon Music buttons. That's probably a bonus. You don't have ads on your remote. So there you go. So that's what I would recommend. Let us know in the comments which one of these you would go for controlling a home theater PC or an Apple TV. Or if you found something better, let us know in the comments about that one as well, because I'll definitely check that one out. But until next time, keep playing and be excellent to each other.